rolling, sort of put us in spot, and then we'll get to work. We got a big agenda, and it's got lots of stuff to do.
Well, welcome. I'm just delighted that, one, we were able to get this set up with the help of Aera and get information out and get the session set up for folks. I've had the pleasure of, and the team of us at UIC, working with Neil and Christina on projects together where having access to this technology, this platform, has been really quite amazing in terms of the kinds of research we can do, the kinds of things that we can do in terms of designing studies and actually running powerful randomized control trial studies in classrooms without having to deal with the issues of typical RCT, of multiple teachers, multiple classrooms, very expensive, etc. So this is a great tool and a great system, and I know some of you are familiar with it, some of you have designed in it, and so I'm looking forward to the workshop to sort of hear Christina sort of lead everybody through this, but also to share examples of people designing in this space and what the possibilities are. So I'm just glad you're here.
Thanks, Jim. And it's in Chicago. It's always good to come back to Chicago. So we have a packed agenda, and I can figure out. There we go. But I really want to make sure that this ends up being a workshop, so not a talk. We've got nice 10-minute talks where people are going to share what they have used assessments to do, but mostly we're going to be working through the process of doing a randomized control trial in assessments. And I don't really have to explain that right this minute because that's what we're going to be doing. We're going to look at 2 studies and dig deep into the data that's already come about and take a look at how you might study it and move around, and depending on how much time we can get deeper and deeper depending on how the agenda has to roll. And then we're going to explore how studies are delivered to students, and we're going to, at the end, we're going to build our own study, do the study. You all are going to pretend to be students, and then we're going to go to our data dumper and look at the data. So that's our culminating activity. Before we do introductions, I just want to get everyone rolling on some bookkeeping stuff, and then as we're doing introductions, we can make sure everyone's at these different places. I have a fancy annotated agenda that I put together on Google Docs to allow me to give you a whole bunch of links to things. So what I want everyone to do right now is to just type in that shortened URL, and you should be able to pull up an agenda that looks like this, but it's got all sorts of links sort of scattered through it. And as we move through the agenda, I'll ask you to click on those links to be able to retrieve important web pages. So I will demonstrate. Oh, and what was the other thing on that?
Where's the URL, Jim saying? There it is.
Oh, I made it go away, sorry. And then you're also going to need the folder. If you didn't get a folder off of one of these USBs, the folder has 2 CSV files and 2 Excel files in it. And you're going to need an assessments account. So is there anybody here who doesn't have an assessments account? I saw 1, 2, 3, and so 4. So maybe Dina can help you get an assessments account. And you.
Looks like a no.
Yes. Okay. Yes. But it's easy to make a new one of your own. It takes maybe 3 minutes to make your own because your university's already there and working. We know that. So great, thanks, Dina. And I should have opened if you signed up. I wish I had a whiteboard. I need a whiteboard. Yeah.
So yeah, we'll use Jim as our guinea pig. Jim, have you gotten in yet?
To what? This?
Yeah.
To that.
Yeah, you succeeded. Okay, all right. Then we guess we gave enough time.
Okay.
If I can do it, anybody can.
The annotated agenda is going to look like this. And I'll just keep coming back and forth from that. And why don't I do this? All right. So if anyone needs help getting that, we can go around and do that and make sure you're there. So now we're going to do some introductions. So I thought we'd start with our guest speakers and then have those of you who are going to be here learning as novices. So that we'll start by just going through the people who are guests, and that way you know who are some more expert folks in the room, and that you can get help from those folks while you're working. So Jim already introduced us, and then is Joseph J. Williams? He's not here yet. No. And it's okay. Go ahead, Candace.
Hi, I'm Candace Walkington. I'm an assistant professor at Southern Methodist University. I do research and assessments on math story problems.
So she's going to share. She's on our agenda. It's going to share. And Neil, you're going to introduce yourself.
So I'm Neil Effernan. I'm the guy that is married to her. And the quickest way of actually making sure I don't run a really bad workshop is actually make me actually run the camera, and that way I can't talk. Because if I ran this workshop, you guys would get through a lot more faster. Okay, you'd learn a lot more. But you know, she needs a job to do, and it's a full employment program. So anyways, okay, without joking, I'm a professor at WPI. I run the PhD program in learning sciences. I come from Carnegie Mellon, where we used to build web-based tutoring systems. And I think actually myself and people like Joseph J. Williams actually have some thoughts on what are the workflow processes that actually we've done many times as building randomized control trials. How can we actually make that easier for everybody so we can actually move educational research forward? And I asked myself, it was actually Jim actually called actually our stuff like this incredible test bed like 5 or 6 years ago on some advisory board letter. And I've been using this tool with my friends basically, and now I actually want to actually open it up to just anybody because you know what? There's more ideas, good ideas out there than are in my head, and that we have time to implement. So my wife's giving me the thumbs up. That's when I have to stop talking.
Joseph, you came in, so why don't you introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Joseph Williams, and I am actually based at Harvard-X, which is Harvard's online education group. And the last couple of years, I've been interested in how do we do experiments in these online environments in a way that actually advances research and learning. So there's been a lot of attention to the phenomenon, but I'm interested in helping me use them to do the kind of research that everyone here does already. So assessments has been a great fit.
But I guess actually technically on this grant that actually is funding this you're on the advisory board and as a consultant helping us think through many of these issues.
The Northwestern team.
So I'm Kay Ramey. I'm a PhD student in the Learning Sciences program at Northwestern. I work with David Utah as a professor of education and cognitive psychology at Northwestern. And we've been interested in using assessments to look at spatial thinking in middle school students' geometry learning. And we've built a couple of problem sets that push on those questions and issues.
Cool. What she said.
Perfect.
I'm Tim Stillinga. I'm at UIC here in Chicago, working with Jim Pellegrino, who we just heard from, on at the Learning Sciences Research Institute on the Math Center project, which is a collaborative multi-institute research project looking at how cognitive principles are applied to a middle grades mathematics program implemented in schools across the country.
Tina? I'm Dina Goldstein, and I work with Tim and Jim. And yeah, we're focusing specifically on spacing and formative assessment.
So let's go, we'll probably start here, and anyone just tell us your name, your university, and if there's a little quick word or two on what your research area is, that'd be great.
I'm Mia Dell. I'm at the University of Memphis with Art Gracer. I do a lot of things with language and discourse and collaborative learning environments and MOOCs.
I'm Caitlin Mills. I'm at the University of Notre Dame, work with Sydney DeMello, and I'm interested in affect and attention during learning.
Gregory White, Michigan State University, in the Ed Policy program, looking at high school to college transition.
Elena Newell. I'm at University of Houston, and I'm interested in professional development for teachers.
I'm Gabriela Groza. I'm at the Learning Sciences Institute here at UIC. I work with Dr. Jim Pellegrino, and my interests are
student. I'm the director of the Assessment and Psychometric Research Division at the Australian Council for Educational Research in Melbourne. So my current interests in the field are how do kids actually process the feedback which is provided by intelligent learning systems.
Your title's as long as the trip you had to take to get there.
Yeah.
I'm Daniel Brenner. I'm from West Ed in California, in the Bay Area specifically. I represent two lines of research. One is sim scientist assessments for high school students that are simulation-based, and the other is Voyage to Galapagos, which is an inquiry-based functionality that we've created for exploring natural selection and evolution, also in middle school.
Cool. Are we gonna we're gonna show how you can actually have like FET-like objects, external objects actually get used?
Yeah, I mean.
Is that gonna get covered?
We're already a minute and a half behind, so.
Hi, I'm Eliane Beasy. I'm a PhD student at Carnegie Mellon, and I'm interested in student cognition when they're learning math, especially how they connect concepts and procedures.
Yeah, I'm Yunjin Long. I'm also from Carnegie Mellon, the Human Computer Interaction Institute. So I design intelligent tutoring systems to support students' self-regulated learning, and I also do research with educational games.
Yeah, she has a killer Dragon Box actually evaluation. If you haven't heard about it.
Neil will tell you about it.
Hi, I'm Marta Molitsky. I'm at the University of Illinois in Chicago, and I am a grad student in the cognitive psychology department, but I'm also working in the learning sciences department, and I'm interested in students' algebra learning and algebraic problem solving.
So we have a large
We go one
variety
more.
of people. Oh, one more, that's right.
My name is David Mealy. I'm in the Department of Applied Developmental and Educational Psychology at Boston College. My research is in the area of self-regulated learning, particularly at the intersection of metacognition and motivation.
A friend who understands deep snow.
Yes.
Along with us.
Do you know the other professor there that actually is running an assessment experiment? Sarah Cordes?
Yes, she's the one who actually turned me on to this.
Cool.
Yeah.
So there's a large variety of people, which is, to me, fits exactly into what we have. We have a tool. You guys are the ones who are going to come up with how it's going to fit in with you. But that's why we're going to sort of try to keep, there's going to be a lot of generic stuff, and that your minds will go tinging at different places when you start being introduced to the things that we've got here. So this visual is sort of my basis of what we're going to be doing. You guys' goal is to have research. We're providing a tool that allows you to get that research paper out. The first thing that has to happen, the first step, is that you're going to have some sort of idea. That's why you're all here. We like to write in our grants that we're trying to move from having research studies that are just done by friends of Neil to everybody else. And so, but that's your place. That orange spot is really where you come up with your ideas. But then, if you're going to use assessments, you have to create a problem set. So the problem set must exist, and it will have a choose condition, an if-then condition, something or other happening, and we'll see some examples today. Then, whatever that study is that's in your problem set gets delivered to teachers who usually deliver it to students. Maybe you'll deliver it directly to students, I don't know. Maybe you use the MOOC to deliver it to students. I mean, how it gets to teachers and students, there's a variety of ways that happens. This grant that's funding like this event today, the big idea was that you would use our subject pool, but that's not the only way to get a study to students. But we'll definitely talk about how you would use our subject pool today. Then there's getting the data and analyzing it. So we give you lots of data, and we're going to look at that first. And then you have to write it up. So that's your job. So I like to say that the warm colors are your work, and the cool colors really involve our tool and us, and that's what we're going to be focusing on today. So our first example, and if you want to see this again, those of you who have this up, and I'll make sure that you get the code to be able to get this annotated agenda. Look at all the people who are here. So there's Anonymous Ebex. I love this thing, the jackal. The very first link at the top of the page will get you to